You feel that? The whole mood around this team flipped overnight. And it's not just playoff jitters. There's a lineup reality that could shape the wild card game before the ball even gets kicked. There's a trade detail that's about to split the faithful right down the middle. There were a couple guys on Saturday night who basically refused to let the entire thing cave in. And there's one storyline hanging over the locker room that could matter almost as much as the matchup itself. Sit with that for a second. None of this is happening by accident. If you're riding with the 49ers faithful, tap like, subscribe, and drop a comment while we go, because I genuinely want to know where you're landing on all of it. Week 18 didn't just hurt. It rerouted everything. The 49ers lose to Seattle, slide to the number 6 seed in the NFC playoff standings, and now it's a trip to Lincoln Financial Field for a wild card game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the first question isn't some whiteboard debate, it's availability. Who's actually suiting up when it gets physical in January? Kyle Shanahan spoke with reporters on a Monday conference call and gave injury updates that immediately set the tone for the week. The roughest one, linebacker Tatum Bethune. He suffered a groin tear against the Seahawks, and he's already been ruled out for the playoffs. When Shanahan was asked if surgery is needed, he said, "Possibly. They haven't decided yet." And that's not the kind of thing you just wave off as next man up. That changes communication, run fits, and how aggressive you can be in a game where one misstep gets punished. Shanahan expects Eric Kendricks to step into that spot, and he sounded pretty comfortable with it. He said Kendricks has been here long enough. He's gotten snaps the last couple of weeks. He's done a good job, and the staff is glad they have him for this situation. But it doesn't stop with Bethune, and that's where it gets tense. Dee Winters is dealing with an ankle issue. Luke Gifford has a quad problem. Both will be evaluated later this week. So, yeah, there's a real possibility the 49ers are thin at linebacker heading into Philly, on the road, in a playoff game. That's not ideal for anybody, especially when you're trying to play fast and clean. Now, the part that should let you breathe a little, Brock Purdy. He took a shoulder stinger late Saturday night, got evaluated, and Shanahan said he checked out and has been cleared. Purdy is expected to be full go this week. Shanahan kept it simple. Brock checked out good. And that's a huge separator. With Purdy, the offense can actually function like itself. Without him, it turns into survival football, and nobody wants to live there in January. There are more names to keep an eye on, too. Defensive end Keon White has a hamstring issue and will be evaluated throughout the week. Safety Jair Brown is day-to-day with a rib injury. Defensive tackle Kalia Davis is day-to-day with knee tendonitis. And two key guys who didn't play against Seattle are going to be monitored closely. Tackle Trent Williams dealing with a hamstring, and wide receiver Ricky Pearsall. Shanahan said Pearsall re-aggravated his previous PCL injury last week, and he explained that's usually what happens with PCLs. It's that same thing flaring up again. Shanahan also addressed Fred Warner, and I know that name makes everybody sit up. Warner suffered a dislocated and fractured right ankle back in Week 6. Shanahan said there's still a possibility Warner could return if the 49ers advance far enough, maybe around a possible third game like an NFC Championship game. But it's too far off to focus on right now, and even if you make a deep run, it doesn't guarantee he's back. One more potential boost. The 49ers are opening the practice window for wide receiver Jacob Cowing this week. That could add help at the position heading into the postseason depending on how the week goes. So let me throw it to you like this. Does this feel like a team ready to flip the switch in Philadelphia, or a team trying to keep itself intact long enough to steal one on the road? Because while everybody's staring at injury reports, one trade detail just got locked in, and it tells you a lot about what this season turned into. When the 49ers acquired Bryce Huff from the Eagles, the terms were conditional. If Huff recorded 8 sacks in the regular season, San Francisco would owe a 4th-round pick. Anything under 8 meant a 5th. Huff finished with 4 sacks, so the Eagles will receive the 49ers' 5th-round pick. And you already know where this goes. The comment section turns into a courtroom. Worth it versus not enough. But the context matters. And it matters a lot. Through 7 weeks, it looked like the Niners might be paying the higher price. Huff recorded 4 sacks over the first 7 games. Then he suffered a hamstring injury and missed 2 weeks. After he came back, he didn't record a single sack the rest of the season. And yeah, some of that can absolutely connect back to the injury. Pass rush is built on burst, and hamstrings mess with that in a way you can't really fake. There's another layer here, though. 3 of Huff's 4 sacks came before Nick Bosu was sidelined for the season. The other came before Michael Williams was sidelined for the season. Early in the year, Huff was a specialist. He wasn't grinding through heavy early down work, and offenses couldn't just shift everything toward him because Bosa was on the edge and Williams could slide inside and affect the pocket. Huff could attack. Then the injuries hit, and the whole job description changed. Huff had to play more early downs, spend more energy defending the run, and by the time pass downs rolled around, he wasn't as fresh. Plus, he drew more attention because he was the one guy who could physically change the game. More focus, less juice, tougher looks, so the production fell off. If Huff had reached 8 sacks, the 49ers wouldn't have hated sending a 4th, because they desperately needed pass rush help this season. But the way it played out, hot start, quiet finish, keeps the cost at a 5th, and that's at least a small break in a year that didn't hand out many of them. Huff is signed through next season. The hope is that what you saw early comes back over a full year if the pieces around him are healthier, Bosa, Williams, and if the front gets reinforced. That's the bet they're living with. And I'll say this quickly. Saturday night also delivered a pretty harsh reminder. Even when the whole team plays its worst game, you still learn who shows up when it's ugly. The 49ers picked a brutal time to post their worst team performance of the year, losing 13-3 to Seattle, and frankly, they're lucky it wasn't worse. After 3 straight games scoring 35-plus points, the offense hit season lows in passing and rushing yards, and it became their lowest point total since Shanahan's first game as head coach back in 2017. The defense only allowed 13 points, the lowest they've allowed in the last month, but Seattle moved the ball at will and could have had at least 24 if not for some shaky decisions and 2 missed field goals. That's the uncomfortable truth. Still, 3 guys earned real respect. Eddie Pinheiro was responsible for 100% of the scoring. He drilled a 48-yard field goal before halftime, and that was it for the offense. And yeah, that sounds insane to even say out loud. Zooming out, Pinheiro's season has been excellent. He was brought in after Jake Moody missed 2 of 3 attempts against Seattle in Week 1. Pinheiro missed just 1 field goal in 29 tries, and that lone miss was a 65-yarder that came up about a foot short. Sam Okwuegbunam showed up with impact plays. A sack, 2 tackles for loss, 2 QB hits, and 4 solo tackles. Early in the second quarter, he tossed Abraham Lucas aside and stopped Kenneth Walker for a 4-yard loss. And 2 plays later, Jason Myers missed a 47-yard field goal. Then right before halftime, Okwuegbunam beat Josh Jones and sacked Sam Darnold for a 6-yard loss, disrupting a drive that could have extended Seattle's lead. Those are momentum plays, even in a game that didn't give you many. And Upton Stout closed his rookie season with his best game. On Seattle's opening drive inside the 10, he helped finish a tackle on Zach Charbonnet to force a 4th down. Then he was targeted on a 4th down pass to Cooper Kupp. Tight coverage, no penalty, drive ends. Later, on a swing pass to Walker with Jake Bobo out front, Stout fought through the block and made a physical tackle to prevent a chunk play. He finished with 6 tackles and allowed just 2 yards on 2 catches on 3 targets. There's also a season-long tracking note tied to this. The 3-star system uses points, 3 for first star, 2 for second, 1 for third. Through Week 18, the standings are Christian McCaffrey with 17 points, and Fred Warner, George Kittle, and Brock Purdy tied at 11. Now we get to the part that can get uncomfortable fast, because it's not a hamstring or a stinger, it's the coaching carousel. The 49ers were fully aware Robert Saleh might not be in the building long when they rehired him as defensive coordinator last offseason. Maybe it's just a single season. Saleh didn't lose much of his reputation despite being fired as the New York Jets head coach midway through 2024, especially with how things have looked in New York after his exit. In the Bay, he got the most out of a banged-up, mostly inexperienced defense, similar to what he did back in 2020 when injuries piled up and he still kept the unit competitive. Saleh has reiterated he wants to be a head coach again. Right now, he's focused on running the 49ers defense in the postseason. But Black Monday opens doors, and this year, those doors swung wide. The Browns dismissed Kevin Stefanski, the Cardinals dismissed Jonathan Gannon, the Falcons dismissed Raheem Morris, and the Raiders dismissed Pete Carroll after the Titans and Giants dismissed their head coaches earlier in the year. The current openings are Giants, Falcons, Titans, Browns, Raiders, and Cardinals. If there's hope for keeping Saleh in the Bay, it's this. He understands his next head coaching job is likely his last best shot. Coaches usually don't get a third chance after 2 failed stints, so he can afford to be picky. But a team like Vegas might be willing to hand him real power and influence to stabilize the franchise, and that kind of setup can be tempting. Either way, the next few weeks could get tense. So when you stack all of it together, the injuries heading into Philly, the finalized trade cost for Huff, the few bright spots from the Seattle disaster, and the uncertainty around Saleh, you see the full picture. The 49ers are living right on the edge between control and chaos. What worries you most right now? The health of the roster for the Eagles game? The long-term future of the defense if Saleh leaves? Or just the ability to respond immediately and start a real playoff run? Drop your take in the comments. Hit like if you're riding with the red and gold, subscribe for daily Niners talk, and let's get into it. Because this week is going to tell us exactly who this team is.